How to Talk Like a Leader, the book written by Peter A. Saul, published by Audiobooks LOA. If people don't feel your words, they won't follow your voice. That one truth changes everything about leadership communication skills. Most people talk to be heard. Leaders talk to be remembered. The difference isn't in volume, it's in precision, clarity, strength, and timing. If your voice isn't respected, your ideas won't matter. If your words don't hold weight, your presence won't lead anyone. This leadership communication audiobook is your guide to building a voice that commands respect without needing to shout. A voice that creates action without needing to impress. A voice that speaks to inspire and lead. You don't need big words, you need strong ones. You don't need to talk more, you need to talk better. In this chapter-by-chapter breakdown, you'll learn how to speak like a leader, with real, practical, direct skills you can apply immediately in everyday conversations, high-pressure moments, and any leadership role. This is leadership communication training for those who want to lead. Not someday, but now. If your words don't lead, nothing else will. It starts here. This is about mastering leadership communication, getting confidence in public speaking, and even learning to speak like a CEO. Let's dive into these leadership speaking techniques and communication skills for managers and leaders at every level. We notice that 85% of you who listen to our video are not yet subscribed to the channel. Please help support the channel by hitting the subscribe button and like the video. Thanks for inspiring us to create more content for you. Now let's begin. Chapter 1. Own every word you say with full confidence, the foundation of leadership communication. All right, let's get straight to it. The absolute bedrock of how to talk like a leader is this. Own every single word that comes out of your mouth with unwavering, full-throttle confidence. That's where genuine leadership communication skills begin. If you speak and your words don't carry the weight of your conviction, then you're just making noise. And noise doesn't move people. Noise doesn't change minds. Noise doesn't build trust or develop executive presence. But when you speak with confidence, when you speak like every syllable matters, people notice, they listen, they lean in, and most importantly, they remember. This isn't just a public speaking tip, it's a life tip. Confidence in public speaking and in everyday leadership interactions doesn't mean being the loudest person in the room. It doesn't mean showing off or being arrogant. It means you stand squarely behind your words. It means you believe what you're saying. And if you don't believe it, why on earth should anyone else? Your confidence is the invisible current that carries your message. Without it, your words are just dead letters. This journey to improve leadership communication starts when you stop second-guessing yourself and start taking full, unadulterated responsibility for every word. Most people speak halfway. They're not sure. They litter their speech with phrases like, I think, maybe, I guess, or I'm not sure, but every time they do that, they dilute their message. They weaken their stance. They lose people. Because the hard truth is, nobody follows someone who sounds unsure. Nobody buys into a message that sounds shaky. And nobody gets inspired by someone who clearly doesn't believe in their own voice. This is crucial for effective communication for leaders. If you want to talk like a leader, you need to decide right now that your words matter. You need to mean what you say what you mean, and take complete ownership of it. When you speak, people need to feel that you're serious. They need to feel that you're grounded, that what you're saying isn't just idle talk. It's who you are. It's what you stand for. This is how you speak like a CEO. They don't waffle. So, how do you actually do that? How do you build this kind of confidence in speaking? First, pay relentless attention to the words you use every single day. Most people speak out of habit. They talk just to fill silence. But a leader, someone practicing effective leadership communication, speaks with intention. You don't waste your words. You don't ramble. You don't water things down to be nice or to avoid potential disagreement. You speak straight. You speak real. And you speak with the kind of presence that silently communicates, "I've earned the right to be listened to." This is a core leadership speaking technique. Now, confidence in your words also stems directly from preparation. This is a key element in any leadership communication training or leadership communication course. If you don't know what you're talking about, your voice will shake. Your message will fall apart. Your lack of confidence will be palpable. That's why leaders prepare. They think, they reflect, they get crystal clear on their message before they open their mouths, so that when the time comes to speak, whether it's a formal presentation or a critical one-on-one, they're not making it up as they go. They've already done the internal work. They've already thought through what matters. And that's why their words carry power, because those words have already been tested, refined and validated in their own mind, in their own life. Confidence also grows exponentially when your words and your actions are in perfect alignment. This is about integrity, a cornerstone of leadership. If you say one thing and do another, people will see through it. Eventually, you'll start doubting yourself too. You can't talk like a leader if you're not living like one. Because people listen more to your example than your explanations. They listen more to how you live than to what you say. When your behavior consistently backs up your words, then you don't have to try so hard to sound confident. You become confident because you've earned it from the inside out. Your executive presence skyrockets. And here's a big one, especially for those looking for leadership communication tips. Stop apologizing for your truth. Stop shrinking your message to make other people comfortable. Leaders don't speak to be liked. They speak to be clear. They speak to lead. If you're always worried about what people will think, you'll never say anything worth listening to. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to be aggressive. But you do have to be firm. You do have to be real. And that means you own your truth, even if not everyone in the room agrees with it. This is a vital part of mastering leadership communication. When you walk into a room and speak, the room should feel it. Not because you're loud, but because you're solid, you're steady, and people can feel that you're not guessing your way through life. You've made decisions, you've built beliefs, you've tested ideas, and now you speak from experience, not just opinion. That's what gives your words undeniable weight. It also means you cut out the soft language that protects your ego, but kills. Your message, eliminate the fillers, eradicate the uncertainty, sort of, kind of. If you believe in something, say it. If you stand for something, speak it. If something's not right, call it out. Too many people weaken their voice, trying to sound nice. But leadership isn't about sounding nice. It's about speaking what matters, even when it's uncomfortable. This is one of the fundamental communication skills for leaders. Confidence in your words also comes from being okay with silence. This is a pro-public speaking tip. Weak speakers rush to fill every pause. They're afraid of quiet, but strong communicators, true leaders, know that silence can be incredibly powerful. You say something important, then you pause. You give people time to hear it, to feel it, to let it land. You don't rush. You don't beg for approval with more words. You say what needs to be said, and then you wait. And that silence, that deliberate pause, speaks just as loudly as your words. It signals confidence. Now, here's something you should carve into your mind. Your voice is your tool, not your crutch. You don't talk to prove yourself. You don't speak to look smart. You speak to serve a purpose. You speak to lead people towards something better. And when you know that deeply, your voice changes. Your tone shifts. You stop performing. You start leading. Because now you're not talking to impress. You're talking to impact. Learning how to talk like a leader isn't about using big, fancy words. It's not about having perfect grammar, though clarity is key, which we'll cover. It's not about showing off your vocabulary. It's about being clear. It's about being certain. It's about being real. People follow that. People respond to that. Because in a world drowning in noise, real voices, voices backed by genuine confidence, stand out. They cut through. So if you want to talk like a leader, if you want to master leadership communication, the very first thing you have to do is this. Own every word you say. Stop outsourcing your voice. Stop doubting your message. Speak with your chest. Speak from your gut. Speak like you mean it. And every time you do, your confidence grows. Your presence grows. Your leadership grows. Because once you own your words, you start owning your space. You show up differently. You carry yourself with a kind of quiet power that people can see in your face, hear in your tone, and feel in your presence. You're no longer trying to sound like a leader. You are one. And that, my friend, changes everything. This is the first, most critical step in your leadership communication training. Practice this. Use these leadership communication exercises in your mind. Before you speak, affirm your belief in your message. Own it. That's your starting point for becoming an effective leadership communication powerhouse. Chapter 2. Speak clearly. So no one misunderstands your message. The power of precision in leadership. If Chapter 1 was about the confidence behind your words, this chapter is about the clarity of those words. This is one of the most vital leadership communication skills you can ever develop if you truly want to lead people, influence decisions, or even just be taken seriously in your daily professional life. Effective communication for leaders hinges on clarity. If your message isn't clear, it's dead on arrival. Clear speaking, when you're learning how to talk like a leader, is not about using fancy polysyllabic jargon. It's not about constructing complicated sentences to sound impressive. It's about being understood, immediately, unequivocally. And when people understand you, they trust you. When they trust you, they listen. When they listen, things start to happen. Action is taken. Change occurs. This is a core tenet of any leadership communication course. But if people can't decipher what you're saying, then it doesn't matter how brilliant your ideas are. It doesn't matter how intelligent you are. It doesn't matter how noble your intentions are. If your words don't land with precision, you lose. The moment your message gets lost in fog, so does your influence. So does your respect. And worst of all, people start filling in the blanks. They start guessing what you meant. And guess what? People rarely guess in your favor. They'll project their own fears, biases, or misunderstandings onto your muddled message. That's why clarity is everything. This is a non-negotiable leadership communication tip. Talking like a leader means you take 100% responsibility for making your message clear. You don't just dump information on people and expect them to sift through it and figure out the gold. That's not leadership, that's laziness. You think before you speak. You slow down your thought process to ensure your words will be streamlined. You strip away all the fluff, the jargon, the unnecessary complexities. You stop trying to sound smart and focus intensely on being understood. That's how strong, effective leadership communication begins. Most people never learn this. They talk fast, they ramble, they use insider terms, assuming everyone knows what they mean. They skip crucial steps in their explanations. They jump from point A to point D, leaving a trail of confusion and bewildered faces. Then they wonder why people don't follow them, why their team is disorganized, why their projects derail. The answer is starkly simple. Unclear words create unclear minds. Unclear minds lead to unclear actions. If people are confused after you speak, that's not their fault. It's yours. This is a tough pill to swallow, but essential for improving leadership communication. So what does crystal clear speaking, the kind that marks a true leader, really look like? What are the practical leadership speaking techniques? Know your point before you open your mouth. If your thoughts are scattered, your words will be a mirror image of that chaos. You have to think through your ideas first. What is the one single most important thing you want to convey? Start there. Be specific. Don't speak in vague generalities. Say exactly what you mean. If you're asking someone to complete a task, state it in one direct, unambiguous sentence. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't try to sound managerial or impressive. Just be real and direct. I need you to finalize the Q3 report by 5 p.m. on Friday, focusing on sections A and B. Clear, concise, actionable. This is a simple but powerful leadership communication exercise. Before any important communication, write down your single key message. Cut the verbal clutter, the art of brevity. Clarity also means ruthlessly eliminating all the extra words that dilute your point. If you can say it in 5 words, don't use 15. Every unnecessary word is a potential point of confusion. If your message gets lost in a torrent of verbiage, people tune out. They stop listening. They get overwhelmed. And once you lose their attention, you've lost your chance to lead. Leaders don't waste attention. They get to the point and they stay on point. This is key to developing executive presence. Economy of language signals a sharp mind. Speak their language. Understand your audience. A fundamental communication skill for managers and leaders is to use words that your audience actually understands. Stop trying to sound intelligent by deploying technical jargon or overly academic language, unless your audience shares that specific vocabulary. If they don't, you're not impressing them. You're alienating them. Speak their language. Meet them where they are. If you're giving instructions to your team, explain it in a way that makes sense to them. If you're teaching someone something new, break it down simply. This isn't because they aren't smart. It's because your job as a leader is to connect, not to confuse or show off. Slow down, pacing for impact. This is a classic public speaking tip that applies everywhere. When you speak too fast, your words lose power. Your sentences blur together. People miss key parts of your message. Slowing down your pace shows control. It shows thoughtfulness. And critically, it gives people time to process what you're saying. Fast talking often stems from nervousness or insecurity. People think they need to rush through their ideas to sound sharp or to avoid being interrupted. But leaders don't rush. They pause. They let their words settle. That deliberate pause makes people lean in. That pause adds weight and gravity to your message. Master your tone, the music of your message. Your tone carries meaning that your words alone can't convey. You can say all the right words with the wrong tone, and people will still take it the wrong way. Conversely, you can say something simple with a strong, congruent tone, and it will hit hard. Your tone is your attitude made audible. If your tone is all over the place, too flat, too aggressive, too uncertain, too sarcastic when you mean to be serious, your message loses clarity. People won't know what to take seriously and what to ignore. That's why you train your tone to match your message. If you're serious, sound serious. If you're conveying urgency, let your tone reflect that. Don't send mixed signals. This is integral to mastering leadership communication. One idea at a time. The rule of focus. Another reason people fail to speak clearly is they get caught up trying to say everything at once. You don't need to tell the entire backstory, every supporting detail, and all possible future implications in one breath. Pick your main point and build around it succinctly. Stick to one core idea at a time. Make it easy for people to follow your logic. Give them mental space to absorb what you're saying. Simplicity in structure isn't weakness, it's profound strength. If you can explain a complex idea in a small number of clear, well-ordered words, that's a hallmark of leadership. Strategic repetition, not redundancy. Sometimes speaking clearly means repeating your main point. The minimum discipline is to state your core message, perhaps elaborate briefly, and then restate it, maybe in slightly different words, to ensure it lands. This isn't because you're unsure, but because people need reinforcement to grasp what truly matters. You say it clearly, you pause, you might rephrase it with certainty, then you move forward. Not in circles, not in confusing loops, but straight ahead. This is different from rambling. It's a deliberate leadership speaking technique. Read the room, calibrate and clarify. Pay attention to how people react when you talk. Watch their eyes. Observe their facial expressions. Are they nodding in understanding, or are their brows furrowed in confusion? Are they distracted, or are they locked into your message? Your words should pull people in. If they're pulling away, you need to adjust. Real leaders pay attention to feedback in real time. They clarify when needed. They might ask, does that make sense? Or what are your thoughts on that so far? Not as a filler, but as a genuine check for understanding. And if the answer indicates confusion, they don't get defensive. They explain again, perhaps in a better, simpler way. Congruent body language. Remember, your message isn't just your words. It's your posture, your facial expressions, your hand gestures, your overall presence. If your words say one thing, I'm confident in this decision, but your body language screams another, slumped shoulders avoiding eye contact, people will believe your body. For effective leadership communication, ensure your non-verbals align with and reinforce your verbal message. Stand tall, make appropriate eye contact, show that you're present and engaged. It all adds to your clarity. Practice daily. Clarity is earned. You don't wait for the big presentation or the crucial negotiation to develop this skill. You train for clarity daily. You practice it in regular conversations with your team, your peers, your family. Work on getting to the point. Work on using precise words. Work on asking clarifying questions yourself to better understand others. Improve how you explain your ideas in low-stakes environments. That's how leaders sharpen their message, not just through big speeches, but through the discipline of clear, everyday conversations. Clarity is earned. It's a skill. It's a decision. Every time you open your mouth, you have the opportunity to build trust or break it. You have the chance to guide people or confuse them, and you have the responsibility to speak in a way that makes your message impossible to misunderstand. So, stop hiding behind complicated language. Stop hoping people will magically decipher what you meant to say. Stop rushing your words, praying they land somewhere sensible. Make a new decision today. When you speak, you will speak clearly. You will speak with purpose. You will speak so nobody leaves the conversation confused about who you are, what you stand for, and what you expect. Speak like your words matter, because they absolutely do. Speak like someone who knows where they're going. Speak like someone who's done the work and earned the right to be heard without ambiguity. That's how a leader talks. That's how a leader connects. That's how a leader builds something real and lasting. And that's the kind of person people choose to follow. Someone who makes their message unmistakably clear every single time. This clarity is a powerful leadership communication tool. Chapter 3. Control your voice before you try to lead. Tone, pace, and power. This isn't a suggestion, it's a non-negotiable requirement for anyone serious about how to talk like a leader. Your voice is far more than just sound waves carrying words. It's your audible presence. It's your attitude manifested. It's your energy projected into the room. And if your voice is not steady, controlled, and aligned with your intention, your leadership will never be fully trusted. This is a core element of developing executive presence and a critical focus in leadership communication training. You can have the best intentions, a brilliant strategic mind, and strong core values. But if your voice shakes under pressure, if it wavers when challenged, if it sounds chronically unsure or emotionally scattered, people will hesitate to follow you. Why? Because people don't just listen to what you say. They listen intently, often subconsciously, to how you say it. Your delivery system is as important as the content itself when it comes to effective communication for leaders. Leadership at its core starts with how you carry yourself, and your voice is a direct, often unfiltered reflection of your inner world. If you're nervous, people hear it in the tremble, the high pitch, the rushed pace. If you're angry, they hear it in the harsh edge, the raised volume, the clipped anasm. If you're unsure, they hear it in the hesitations, the upward inflections, the lack of conviction. You can't easily hide these tells. And the more emotional noise or internal chaos lives inside you, the harder it becomes to speak with confidence and direction. That's why, before you step into a significant leadership role, before you attempt to influence a high-stakes decision, before you try to inspire a team to move mountains, you must first learn to control your own vocal instrument, your tone, your volume, your rhythm, your pace, and the emotional state that fuels it. This is a fundamental leadership speaking technique. A leader doesn't just talk, they command attention. And this command doesn't come from being loud or aggressive. It doesn't come from talking over others or dominating the conversation. It comes from using a steady, calm, grounded voice that subtly communicates to everyone listening. I'm not here to impress you with noise. I'm here to guide you with clarity and strength. That's the critical difference. Loud people often just want to be noticed. Grounded leaders, those who have mastered their vocal delivery, want to be understood and trusted. There's a universe of difference between the two. When your voice is under your conscious control, people feel a sense of safety and stability around you. They feel like you're not going to snap under pressure. You're not going to panic when things go sideways. You're not going to spin off into an emotional tirade. You're steady. And that steadiness, projected through your voice, creates profound trust. You simply can't lead effectively if your voice is shaking every time you need to speak up or make a tough call. You can't lead if your tone swings wildly with your mood. People get exhausted trying to follow voices they can't predict. That unpredictability breeds anxiety. And leadership is not about making people feel anxious. It's about giving them clear, consistent direction they can count on. This is a key insight for communication skills for managers. So how do you actually gain this crucial control over your voice? It's a skill, and like any skill, it's built. Become acutely aware of your current voice. Most people are utterly oblivious to how they actually sound to others. They've never seriously listened to their own tone. They've never recorded themselves speaking in various situations, e.g., a casual chat versus a tense discussion. They don't know if they speak too fast, too soft, too harshly, too monotonously, or with too many filler words. That self-awareness is the absolute first step. You can't fix what you don't acknowledge. Leadership communication exercise. Record yourself in different scenarios. A phone call, a mock presentation, explaining a complex idea. Listen back critically. Are you clear? Are you firm? Do you sound like someone who genuinely believes what they're saying? Or do you sound like someone merely hoping to be accepted or not challenged? The more you know how you sound, the more you can take conscious control of it. Choose your tone. Intentionally, once aware, you start choosing your tone instead of letting your fleeting emotions dictate it. If you're feeling frustrated, you don't automatically let that frustration manifest as a raised voice or a sharp edge. You acknowledge the feeling internally, then consciously choose a calm, firm, and direct tone to address the issue. If you're excited about an idea, you don't let your pace speed up so much that you lose people in a blur of words. You hold the energy but maintain a steady, engaging delivery. Leadership demands that you demonstrate emotional regulation, and your voice is where people often see and hear it first. Master your breath, the engine of your voice. Most people drastically underestimate how vital breathing is to vocal control. Shallow, chest-level breathing often leads to a thin, rushed, or shaky voice. It's a hallmark of nervousness. But when you learn to breathe diaphragmatically, deeply and from your core, your voice naturally becomes stronger, more resonant, and more controlled. You don't have to force it. It settles. It becomes deliberate. And people subconsciously sense that control. Technique. Before every important conversation, every meeting, every decision where you'll need to speak with authority, center yourself. Take a few slow, deep breaths. Slow everything down internally, then speak from that centered place. This is a powerful tool from many public speaking tips that leaders use constantly. Embrace the power of the pause. A powerful voice isn't just about what you say, it's often about what you don't say and when. If you speak impulsively, driven by a need to fill silence or react immediately, you'll inevitably say things you regret. You'll create damage that takes a long time to repair. But if you train yourself to pause, to think, to truly listen even to the unspoken, you'll speak fewer words, but they'll carry significantly more weight. And that precision and impact are what leadership communication is all about. Fewer words, more meaning. Study models of excellent vocal control, not mimicry. Think about the leaders, speakers, or communicators you respect most. They likely didn't rush through their words. They didn't fumble or ramble. They spoke with purpose. Every sentence had a job to do. Every word carried meaning. They weren't trying to sound important. They were important because they were grounded. That's what gave their voice authority. And that kind of authority doesn't come from a title on a business card or the volume of their voice. It comes from inner strength, from discipline, and from a voice that has been honed, practiced deliberately and consistently. You practice your voice like any other critical skill. You train it. You rehearse, not to fake it, but to refine it. If you have a public speaking engagement, practice it beforehand. Record yourself. Listen back. Adjust your pacing, your tone, your emphasis. If you're leading a team meeting, don't just speak off the cuff. Prepare your key messages, yes, but also consider how you will deliver them. Strong leaders don't leave their communication to chance. They take it with the utmost seriousness because they know every word, every tone, every pause can either build or break what they're trying to achieve. This is a central theme in mastering leadership communication, vocal control in everyday moments. Understand that your voice isn't just on for big moments. It matters in the small, everyday conversations, in one-on-one feedback sessions, in dealing with conflict, in casual check-ins. Every moment you speak, people are listening and subconsciously evaluating, can I trust this person? Do they mean what they say? Are they in control, or are they emotionally volatile? That trust is built or destroyed incrementally based on how well you've mastered your tone, your message, and your projected energy. Project energy and belief, not just volume. And energy is everything. If your voice lacks genuine energy, not loudness but vitality, people won't feel your words. You can't motivate a team with a dead, monotonous tone. You can't speak to inspire and lead with a flat, disinterested delivery. You don't need to be an over-the-top hype person, but you do need to be alive in your communication. Your voice needs to carry your belief. It needs to show that you care, that you're invested. You need to be fully present in your words. Otherwise, no matter how good your ideas are, they'll fall flat. Manage your emotional triggers. The pressure test. When things go wrong, when people push your buttons, when situations get intense and heated, you must be able to hold your ground without your voice cracking, rising in panic, or sharpening with uncontrolled anger. If your voice changes dramatically every time you're under pressure, people lose trust in your stability. They might respect your knowledge in calm times, but they'll hesitate to follow you when it truly counts. Vocal control means staying calm, or at least sounding calm and deliberate, even when the internal storm is raging. That perceived calmness is what people remember. It's what helps others stay steady too. When your voice is trained, your leadership becomes sharper, more defined, more impactful. You speak with focus, you lead with presence, you guide with strength, and people feel it. They know they're in the presence of someone who isn't just talking to be heard. They're talking because they have something genuinely worth hearing, and they deliver it with mastery. So take your voice seriously, not for performance art, but for genuine influence. Train it daily, reflect on it, record yourself. Ask for honest, constructive feedback from trusted sources. Adjust your tone until it consistently reflects strength, clarity, and composure. Practice speaking under pressure. Practice holding your ground without shouting. Build the kind of voice that calms volatile situations, moves people to action, and earns deep respect without ever needing to demand it. Because before anyone will follow your vision, they will first listen to your voice. And before they truly listen to your message, they will judge the quality of that voice. Not your accent, not your vocabulary primarily, but the presence, the energy, and the control behind it. When your voice reflects discipline, purpose, and unwavering steadiness, people feel safe. They feel confident in your confidence, and they begin to trust your leadership, not because you told them to, but because your voice proved it, consistently and reliably. That's how you talk like a leader. That's where true leadership begins to take audible form. Before you ask others to follow, make sure your voice is ready and able to guide. Not sometimes, not when you feel like it. Every single time, in every room, in every crucial moment. Because once your voice is steady, your leadership starts to become undeniably real. Chapter 4. Say things that actually move people to act, from words to impact. This is where leadership communication skills transition from theory to tangible results. It's not just about talking. It's not about sounding smart or eloquent. It's about speaking in a way that creates movement. A leader's words don't just fill time or passively convey information. They change minds. They awaken dormant potential. They make someone stop what they're doing, reevaluate, and think differently. Critically, they make someone take a step they've been avoiding, a step towards growth, a step towards the collective goal. When you speak to inspire and lead, your words must have power. Not the fleeting power of emotional hype, but the enduring power of practical push. Your words should lead directly to action, otherwise you're just another voice in the ever-present background noise. People are bombarded with words every single day. They're flooded with opinions, distractions, instructions, and advice from all corners, but most of it doesn't truly move them. It passes through their ears and disappears like mist. What they remember, what truly sticks and influences behavior, is what made them feel something potent enough to shift them out of their comfort zone and into motion. And that, as a leader, is your job, to say things that wake people up without needing to shout, to speak in a way that reaches not just their ears, but their core, their conviction, their capacity for action. This is the essence of effective communication. For leaders, this kind of impactful speaking, this leadership speaking technique doesn't come from memorizing clever lines or mimicking someone else's style. It comes from a deep-seated understanding of why you're saying what you're saying. It comes from crystal clarity of purpose, from unwavering intention, and often from hard-won experience. Before you even attempt to influence others, rigorously, check your motive. Are you trying to impress, or are you genuinely trying to impact? Are you just regurgitating something you've heard, or are you speaking from a place of conviction that's been tested in the fires of real life? People can tell. They have an innate sensor for authenticity. They know when your words are just information versus when your words are real. Real words, words born from genuine belief and experience, carry an undeniable pressure. They have weight. They don't float aimlessly. They land. And when they land with that kind of force, people move. If you want to move people, learn to speak with confidence directly to their pain points, but also to their highest aspirations. Speak to the part of them that's tired of their own excuses. Speak to the quiet frustration they carry, but perhaps never articulate. Speak to the crucial decision they've been delaying. You don't need to phrase it perfectly, with poetic flourish. You just need to say it truthfully. The truth has a unique way of hitting its mark. The truth can sting, yes, but it also liberates. It cuts through the self-deception. People are surrounded by soft talk. Everyone's telling them to take it easy, to wait for the right time, to avoid discomfort at all costs. That's not what they need from a leader who aims to improve leadership communication. They need someone to look them in the eye, figuratively or literally, and say, "You've waited long enough. You've been hiding your potential. You've been settling for less than you're capable of." Not with judgment, not with condescension, but with undeniable clarity and a belief in their capacity to rise. When someone finally says what needs to be said, people wake up. That's how you talk like a leader. And you don't move people by over-explaining until the point is buried. This is a crucial public speaking tip for leaders. Say it once, say it clearly, say it with unwavering strength, and then let it sit. If you drag your core point through 5 rambling examples and a dozen caveats, you lose the spark. The message gets buried under the weight of your own insecurity. Say it short, sharp, and straight. And once it's said, don't water it down with apologies or qualifiers. People need clarity to act, not comfort that allows them to stay put. They need something solid to hold on to, not something vague to overthink. If you want them to act, give them something clean, firm, and actionable. This is a powerful leadership communication tool. Another key to moving people is creating a healthy sense of urgency. Not panic, but purpose-driven urgency. People don't typically move without a compelling reason to do so now. Your words should carry a sense that something important must be done, not in 6 months, not when life settles down, but now. You need to clearly, yet responsibly, show them what's at stake if they don't move. What happens if they stay the same? What do they stand to lose if they keep waiting? What will it cost them, their team or the organization, if inaction prevails? That's how you trigger action, not by manufacturing fear, but by illuminating the truth. The truth that often staying where you are, mired in indecision or complacency, is the most dangerous decision of all. This is vital for mastering leadership communication. Speak in language they understand. Use words they use. If your message sounds too polished, too academic, or too detached from their reality, people tune out. They think, "This isn't for me." But if it sounds like it came from someone who's walked where they're walking, who's fought the battles they're fighting, they'll listen intently. You don't need perfect grammar or clever turns of phrase to speak to inspire and lead. You need to sound real. You need to sound like someone who means what they say and says what they mean consistently. It's not just what you say, it's how much you mean it. This is where your confidence in public speaking and private conversations truly shines. If you don't believe your own message viscerally, nobody else will. Your tone, your micro-expressions, your entire being carries your belief or lack thereof. If you're giving advice you don't personally live by, people will sense the incongruity. If you're telling people to be disciplined while your own life reflects a lack of it, your words lose all power. But if your words come from your personal standard, from your lived experience, they hit hard. That's why your life must be a testament to your message. When it is, your words gain an incredible, almost effortless strength without needing excessive volume or theatricality. This is how you develop executive presence. People are not always looking for more motivation. Often they're looking for permission to change. They want to know it's okay to leave behind what's familiar but unfulfilling. They want to hear from a trusted voice that they're allowed to demand more of themselves, that it's not arrogant or selfish, but necessary for growth. And your words, if crafted and delivered with skill, can unlock that permission. Your words can pull the switch that ignites their action, but only if they're direct, real, and unequivocally aimed at prompting a specific action or a shift in perspective that leads to action. Don't talk around the issue. Don't sugarcoat the uncomfortable truth. Say what they need to hear, not just what they want to hear. And then challenge them to do something with it. Sometimes what moves people most profoundly is not gentle inspiration. It's a respectful, constructive confrontation with their own inaction. You say something that they've been studiously avoiding. You hold up a mirror to their potential versus their current reality. You call out the pattern, not with anger, but with unwavering honesty and a belief in their capacity to break it. That moment of discomfort often becomes the precise turning point they needed. Many people are silently waiting, hoping for someone to call them higher, not by yelling, not by inducing guilt, but by stating with calm conviction, "You're capable of more than this, and it's time to act like it." That single line, if said with the right intent and authority at the right moment, can fundamentally shift someone's life trajectory. And don't fall into the trap of trying to say what's popular or what will get you applause. Say what's needed. Leaders, true leaders, don't chase applause. They chase progress, they chase impact, they chase positive change. The room might not erupt in cheers when you deliver a hard truth. That's fine. They'll think about it. They'll sit with it. And if it's real, if it resonates with their own inner knowing, they'll eventually move. You're not trying to entertain an audience. You're trying to build a stronger team, a better future, a more capable individual. So speak like someone who takes profound responsibility for the effect of their words. Never forget the strategic power of silence in moving people. If your words are strong, concise, and truthful, you don't need to say much. One powerful sentence, followed by a deliberate, expectant silence, can do more to provoke thought and action than a 5-minute rambling lecture. That silence gives the message room to breathe. It gives people space to internalize it, to wrestle with it, to respond internally. If your words are filled with truth, don't rush to keep talking and dilute their impact. Let the truth land. Let it echo. You also move people by making things simple and actionable. Complexity creates hesitation and paralysis. But when you break a challenge or a goal down into a clear, immediate next step, people feel empowered and ready. Frame your calls to action simply. Start today. Make that call now. Write down the first step. Fix this one thing before you leave. Don't leave them guessing about what to do next. Move them from thought to decision, from idea to action, from good intentions to actual measurable change. Remember, to talk like a leader who truly moves people, you don't need to say more. You need to say it better. Don't crowd your message with fluff. Don't soften your essential edges to the point of ineffectiveness. Speak directly to the real issue. Say the words people are often afraid to say themselves. Call out the habits and mindsets that keep them stuck. Say what others won't, but do it with the aim of lifting them, not shaming them. That's how a leader speaks. That's how a leader moves people. Because when your words carry undeniable truth, appropriate urgency, and clear direction, when your voice is calm, controlled, and certain, when your message is laser-focused on what matters most, then people stop scrolling through their mental distractions. They stop waiting for someday. They start moving. They stop living in a state of delay and start living with purpose and intention. Speak in a way that truly matters. Speak to the part of people that is hungry for more, for better. Speak with enough constructive pressure to wake them up from their slumber, and enough clarity to show them precisely where to go next. That's how you lead. That's how you earn genuine attention. That's how you move people, not with noise, but with words that carry intrinsic weight. And those words, those powerful, action-inducing words, must come from a place inside you that has already moved, that is already convinced, that is already committed, because what moves you is what will ultimately move others. Speak from that place of deep personal conviction. Speak from your standards. Speak from your scars, your lessons learned the hard way. Speak from what you know, not just what you've read. That's what makes your voice different. That's what makes your message matter. That's what makes people act. This is mastering leadership communication in its most potent form. Chapter 5. Use strong words that build respect and attention, the language of leadership. The words you choose are the building blocks of your leadership. This isn't just a public speaking tip, it's a fundamental principle of effective communication for leaders. Most people never take their word choice seriously enough, but every individual aspiring to talk like a leader must master this skill. People don't follow voices that are weak, unsure, or filled with verbal fluff. They follow voices that speak with substance, precision, and an undeniable strength. And strong words don't necessarily mean harsh words. They mean words that hold meaning, words that carry weight, words that resonate with clarity, and words that subtly signal you've earned the right to be heard. This is central to improving leadership communication. Every time you speak, you are either building your credibility or eroding it. You are either gaining attention or being passively ignored. It all comes down to your word choice. Weak words are forgettable. They evaporate into the air. Strong words are remembered. They take root in the listener's mind. To talk like a leader, you have to develop a keen understanding of the impact your words make, not just their dictionary meaning, but the tone they convey, the presence they project, and the power they wield. This is a core leadership speaking technique. Strong words demand attention, not because they are loud or aggressive, but because they are precise, direct, and unclouded by doubt. When you speak with confidence using clear, strong language, people stop and listen. They sense you're serious. They feel your conviction. You don't have to repeat yourself endlessly. You don't have to over-explain. One sentence, spoken with power and clarity, can change the entire direction of a conversation, a meeting, and in some critical cases, a life-altering decision. This is how you develop executive presence. Weak language, conversely, creates doubt and diminishes your impact. When you habitually use phrases like, "I think this might be a good idea," or, "Well, maybe we could try," or, "I guess we should consider," or, "sort of like this," you dilute your message. You strip it of its potential strength, you signal uncertainty, and people stop truly listening. They might hear the sounds, but they don't register the message with the gravity it might deserve. Strong words, on the other hand, are clean. They are direct. They don't leave space for confusion or misinterpretation. They show you've made a decision, you've formed a conviction, you have a clear point of view. You're not tentatively offering a suggestion you're unsure about. You're making a statement, delivering an instruction, or sharing a well-considered insight. And when people hear that kind of certainty, that confidence in speaking, they are far more likely to respect your voice and consider your message seriously. If you're constantly trying to be soft, perpetually worried about not offending anyone, always attempting to please everyone in the room, you'll inevitably end up saying nothing that truly matters. People respect clarity. They follow someone who speaks the truth, even if that truth is uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable and needs to be said. Strong words are not about being aggressive. They are about being unshakable in your clarity and conviction. You don't raise your voice. You raise your standard of communication. That's what makes people pay attention. This is a vital insight for communication skills for managers and all leaders. Your choice of words is a direct reflection of your internal standards. If you've mentally settled for average in your thinking, your words will sound average, hesitant, and uninspired. But if you've demanded more from yourself, if you've pushed your own thinking to be clearer and more rigorous, Your words will naturally reflect that internal discipline and strength. Strong words emanate from a strong mindset. When your thinking is clear, your language becomes powerful. If you speak like a CEO, it's often because you've cultivated the internal fortitude and clarity that such a role demands. You've dealt with pressure, you've faced complex challenges, you've made tough decisions, you've earned your voice. People don't just want to hear information. They want to hear belief. They want to feel conviction. If your words are laced with doubt, you lose them before you've even finished your sentence. But when you speak from your core, when you say things you've lived, things you've validated through your own experience, people lock in. They can feel the profound difference between superficial talk and deeply rooted truth. Talk is easy. Anyone can do it. Truth, delivered with conviction, takes discipline and courage. And when your words are based on that kind of truth, people can't easily ignore you. This is how you speak to inspire and lead. Using strong words also means ruthlessly, eliminating all the verbal filler, the linguistic crutches that weaken your impact. Cut out the ums, ahs, you knows, likes, and kind ofs. These phrases do nothing but create noise and signal a lack of preparedness or confidence. Leadership communication is not about noise, it's about precision. One clear, declarative sentence, delivered without hesitation, is infinitely more powerful than a 10-minute speech riddled with filler and uncertainty. Say less, but say it better. This is a key principle in mastering leadership communication. To gain respect when you speak, you must first respect your own words. That means you don't talk just to fill silence. You don't speak when you haven't thought through your point. Every sentence has a purpose. Every word is chosen with intention. That's how people begin to respect you, not just because of what you say, but because of how carefully and deliberately you say it. Attention is earned. It's not an automatic entitlement, and it's not about being flashy or theatrical. It's about being solid, substantive, and clear. Your words should be like anchors. When you say something, it should stay. People should carry it with them. They should think about it later, because it wasn't just a fleeting sound. It was a statement, an insight, a directive that carried weight. If your words fade as soon as they're uttered, you're not leading. You're blending into the background. This is where leadership communication training can make a huge difference by focusing on impactful language. The language of leadership is bold, but not reckless. It's confident, but not arrogant. And it is always clear. Clarity is power. If someone has to frequently ask, "What did you mean by that?" or "Could you clarify your point?" you've already lost them, or at least diminished your impact. People follow voices that are easy to understand but hard to ignore. That's the potent balance you're aiming for. Simplicity in language combined with strength in conviction. No fluff, no ego. Just truth, delivered directly and memorably. There's also something else profoundly important to understand. Strong words must be earned. You can't fake them for long. If your life, your actions, your decisions don't match your powerful message, your words will eventually feel empty, hollow, and hypocritical. That's why personal discipline matters so intensely. That's why living with clearly defined standards matters. Because your voice gains authentic power from your example. When you've lived what you speak, you don't have to strain to convince people. They feel it. They hear the authenticity. It's fundamentally different. You build attention when your words consistently bring value. Every time you speak, ask yourself this critical question: is this helping someone think better, act more effectively, or live with greater clarity and purpose? If the answer is no, then perhaps you shouldn't say it. Save your energy and theirs for what truly matters. Leaders don't speak to fill time. They speak to shift something, a perspective, an action, an outcome. And when your words consistently deliver that kind of value, people make space for you. They stop scrolling on their phones. They stop their side conversations. They lean in and listen. Strong words are also, by their nature, honest words. Not cruel, but undeniably honest. You say the thing that needs to be said, even if it's difficult. You don't hide behind comfortable euphemisms. You don't dress up a hard truth in so many layers of soft language that its meaning is lost. You tell the truth, clearly and directly, but with respect for the listener. Most people avoid this. They speak in circles. They soften everything to the point of meaninglessness. But when you talk like a leader, you speak with a certain boldness. You say, this current approach isn't working. You say, this behavior needs to change. You say, here's what absolutely has to happen next. That kind of clarity, delivered without malice, but with firm conviction, builds respect. Not everyone will like it in the moment, but they will remember it. And when people remember your words, you become a voice of influence. Not because you forced it, but because you earned it. You spoke with focus, with courage, and with precision. That's what sets leaders apart. They don't necessarily speak more, they speak stronger, and that strength doesn't come from shouting or dominating. It comes from self-control, from deep thought, from taking responsibility for the impact of their communication. Every room you enter is filled with voices, most of them blending into an indistinguishable hum. But when someone speaks with weight, with depth, with clarity, everyone turns. That's your goal. Not to be the loudest, but to be the one people stop for, because what you say carries something real, something valuable. And remember, this journey to improve leadership communication starts with how you talk to yourself. If your internal dialogue is weak, hesitant, and self-critical, your outer voice will inevitably mirror that. Speak strong words inside first. No more self-doubt, no more playing small. Train your mind to think with strength, and your words will follow. You say to yourself, I can do this. I will make this better. I refuse to settle for average. When you talk to yourself with that kind of internal strength, you begin to talk to the world the same way. So choose your words with care, with precision, with intent. Speak with conviction. Speak with strength. Cut out the soft, hesitant language that wastes people's time and diminishes your power. Speak to be clear, not just to be liked. Speak to make an impact, not just to fill silence. Speak from experience, not just from theory. When your words are strong, people feel it. They listen longer, they trust more, and they remember. That's how respect is built. That's how attention is earned, not through noise, but through strong, clear, real words that speak directly to what matters. You don't need a crowd. You don't need constant approval. You need discipline. You need belief. And you need the courage to speak as someone who means every single word. That's what leadership sounds like, and that's what people will ultimately follow. Not just words, but words that lead. This is a cornerstone of any effective leadership. Communication course or audiobook lower, leading others effectively. Chapter 6. Drop the weak talk and speak with real strength. Eliminating verbal crutches. This is the moment of transformation, not just in your leadership communication skills, but in your entire life. Because the way you speak is a direct, audible manifestation of how you think, and how you think shapes everything. Weak talk is more than just using soft or hesitant words. It's the insidious habit of speaking from a place of chronic hesitation, underlying fear, or deep-seated insecurity. And the longer you speak that way, the more it reinforces those negative patterns shaping who you are. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy etched into your identity. But when you make the conscious, deliberate decision to stop using that kind of undermining language, and you choose consistently to speak with confidence and real strength, you don't just sound different, you begin to become different. You become sharper in your thinking, more certain in your decisions, more respected by your peers and team, People know when your voice carries strength. They feel it. Not because you've suddenly raised your volume, but because your words now possess a backbone. There's a quiet, undeniable authority in your tone. There's clear intention in your delivery. There's palpable power in your message. And that only happens when you ruthlessly identify and eliminate the verbal crutches, the phrases that drain your credibility and dilute your impact. This is a critical step to improve leadership communication. You hear weak talk everywhere, every day. It's pervasive. I'm not sure, but hopefully it works out okay. This might sound dumb, but I was just wondering if maybe these phrases and countless others like them slip into conversations so easily. And every single time they do, they send a subtle but damaging message. I don't fully believe in what I'm saying, or I'm not confident in my own opinion request, or please don't challenge me too hard. You may not mean to convey that, but that's exactly what people hear, consciously or subconsciously. This is why mastering leadership communication requires such attention to detail in language. Weak talk undercuts your message before it even has a chance to land. It broadcasts doubt. It creates an unnecessary distance between you and your listener. It softens your edge to the point of bluntness. And if you're trying to lead, trying to influence, trying to earn trust and develop executive presence, those seemingly innocuous words will cost you dearly. They will undermine your authority and make it harder to speak, to inspire and lead. Real strength in your voice, the kind that defines effective leadership communication, begins with a commitment to eliminating the words and phrases that waste. Your power, you don't need to constantly explain yourself to everyone for every minor point. You don't need to shrink your opinion or soften your stance to avoid potential discomfort or disagreement. You don't need to sound small to be liked. In fact, if you're aiming for leadership, you're not primarily there to be liked in a superficial sense. You're there to be clear, to be strong, to be solid, and to guide effectively. And that starts by dropping every phrase that gives people implicit permission to ignore you or dismiss your message. This is a core lesson in any leadership communication training. You don't need to say, "I just think." If you think it, say it directly. "I think," or even stronger, "my assessment is," or "the data indicates." Don't lead with "sorry, but dim." Unless you've genuinely made an error that requires an apology, you're not sorry for having a point of view, for making a request, or for stating a fact. And you don't need to ask for permission with every sentence you utter. Is it okay if I suggest? When you speak like a CEO or any strong leader, your words stand on their own. You're not aggressively pushing them, nor are you timidly begging for attention or validation. You're simply delivering something real, something you believe in, with no apology, no hesitation, and no room for confusion. Strength in communication doesn't mean aggression. This is a common misconception. You don't need to be harsh to be powerful. You don't need to dominate the room with volume or intimidation. Real strength is calm, it's controlled, it's steady, it's you speaking from a place of deep certainty. Because you know who you are, you know what you stand for, and you know what you're saying matters. You've thought about it, you've done the work, you've earned the right to that conviction. You're not performing, you're delivering something that has intrinsic value. This is a key leadership speaking technique. When you speak with confidence and strength, people respect you differently. They don't interrupt you as frequently. They don't question your assertions in the same dismissive way. They listen longer, more intently, because strong, well-chosen words hold attention. And attention, in the economy of communication, is currency. It's not given freely, it's earned. Weak talk squanders attention. Strong talk commands and retains it. And once you have someone's full, undivided attention, that's when you can truly make an impact. If you want to talk like a leader, you have to make a conscious decision about the kind of voice you're going to cultivate and project. Not just the sound, but the tone, the structure, the underlying meaning. Will it be padded with disclaimers, softeners, and fillers, or will it be sharp, intentional, and exact? The truth is, nobody is going to fix this for you. If you've grown up around weak talk, if you've worked in environments where people habitually avoid saying things directly, you might have unconsciously picked up those detrimental habits. But habits, even ingrained ones, can be unlearned and replaced. And this is one habit that is absolutely worth the effort to change. Strong speech starts with internal conviction. If you don't truly believe in what you're saying, no amount of vocal technique will make it sound convincing to others. So build your beliefs. Think deeply, challenge your own ideas, research your facts. Once you've done that rigorous internal work, you'll find you stop needing to defend yourself so much externally. You won't need to sound loud, you'll just need to sound clear. And clarity, delivered with conviction, is an incredibly powerful form of strength. This is a vital communication skill for leaders. People who consistently use weak talk often feel invisible or unheard. But it's not always the world that's ignoring them. It's often the way they present their voice and their message. You train people how to treat your communication. If you treat your own message as if it's unsure, optional, or vague, they will too. But when you speak with clarity, directness, and unwavering strength, people pause. They think, they take notice. And your presence, your influence, begins to grow. There's also a critical time factor involved. Weak talk wastes time. Your time and the listener's time. You ramble. You go in circles. You use 3 extra sentences when one well-crafted sentence would suffice. Strong speech is efficient. It gets to the point. It respects people's time. That's another way strength shows up, in how little you often need to say to get your message across effectively. When you stop trying to impress everyone and just focus on delivering the truth clearly, your voice becomes cleaner and cleaner. More direct voices cut through the noise much faster and more effectively. You'll also feel profoundly different when you make a consistent effort to stop using weak talk. There's a noticeable shift in your posture, in your energy, in how you enter a room, because you're no longer second-guessing yourself while you're speaking. You're not mentally editing every sentence in real time. You're not bracing for judgment or disapproval with every word. You're delivering something solid, something you've prepared for, even if that preparation was a quick mental structuring, and you know it. That knowledge gives you a sense of freedom, and that freedom translates into authentic confidence. Weak talk often stems from fear. Fear of being wrong, fear of being judged, fear of being disliked, fear of conflict. But here's a hard truth for anyone aspiring to effective leadership communication. If you constantly try to speak in a way that never offends, never challenges, never demands anything of anyone, then your words will never be taken seriously. And if your words aren't taken seriously, you'll never truly lead. So you have to decide, do you want to be universally liked, or do you want to be effective? You often can't have both, especially in leadership roles where tough decisions and clear direction are paramount. Leadership isn't about maintaining comfort at all costs. It's about driving clarity, fostering growth, and moving things forward. And that requires inherent strength in how you communicate. It means you drop the soft padding, the verbal tiptoeing, and you say the thing that needs to be said. You don't do it carelessly or cruelly. You do it with discipline, with focus, with purpose. You don't use strength to push people down. You use it to lift them up, to call them to a higher standard. But lifting doesn't always mean being gentle with everything. Sometimes strength sounds like a direct challenge. Sometimes it sounds like a necessary correction. Sometimes it sounds like a firm, "That's not acceptable." And sometimes it's just the power of silence, holding your ground with quiet conviction when others want you to fold or equivocate. All of that is powerful communication. And all of it stems from consciously dropping the weak habits that dilute your presence and your message. Don't wait for a perfect moment or a big presentation to start speaking stronger. This is a skill built through consistent leadership communication exercises in your daily life. Practice in your regular conversations. Start by identifying and cutting out one soft phrase at a time. Replace, "I hope this works," with "We will make this work." Replace "I guess we could" with "We've decided to proceed with," or "My recommendation is." Replace "It might be a good idea if" with "Here is what I see as the best course of action," or "This is what needs to happen." These small, consistent changes add up. They rewire your brain and your vocal patterns, and before long, your entire presence shifts. People notice, you notice, and you begin to operate at a significantly higher level of influence and effectiveness. You don't need to shout. You don't need to argue relentlessly. You don't need to win every single conversation. You just need to show up with words that have backbone, words that demonstrate you've thought through what you're saying, words that signal you're not afraid of reasonable pushback or scrutiny. And when people hear that consistently, they stop testing you in the same ways. They start respecting you. That's how strength speaks. Calm, clear, controlled, unshaken. You don't speak for approval. You speak because you have something real and valuable to say. And the more you speak that way, the more your leadership takes root, not because you talk the most, but because when you do talk, people know it matters. So drop the weak talk, cut the noise, cut the fluff, speak with precision, speak from your values, speak with steady, unwavering confidence, and do it every time, in every interaction, until it's no longer something you try to do. It's simply who you are. That's leadership, and it starts with your voice. This is a powerful lesson, often central to a leadership communication course or found in a leadership communication audiobook. Chapter 7. Hold your ground. When others try to shake you, communicating under pressure. This chapter is about resilience in communication, a defining characteristic of how to talk like a leader. It's what separates genuine leaders, those with true executive presence, from those who might sound good when everything is calm but fold under the first sign of pressure or disagreement. Anyone can speak with perceived strength when no one is pushing back. Anyone can sound confident when the room is nodding in agreement. But the real test, the crucible where your leadership communication skills are truly forged, is when your beliefs, your words, your decisions are challenged. When someone questions your voice, scrutinizes your message, or directly attacks your position, that's when your presence gets tested. That's when you find out what your voice and your conviction are really made of. The world doesn't hand you a microphone in a silent, adoring room. It gives you resistance. It gives you skepticism. It gives you pushback. And your ability to lead effectively depends, in large part, on how well you stay solid, calm, and clear when that resistance inevitably shows up. This is mastering leadership. Communication in high-stakes environments. Most people crack as soon as they feel the discomfort of disagreement. The moment someone raises an objection or expresses a contrary opinion, they start to backpedal. They soften their words. They over-explain themselves, often defensively. They start seeking approval or trying to placate the challenger, and in doing so, they instantly lose the strength in their voice and the authority in their message. Leadership isn't about getting everyone to agree with you all the time. It's about standing firmly in your truth, in your well-reasoned position, even when others don't. You don't speak primarily to be popular. You speak because what you have to say matters. And if it truly matters, you don't let external pressure or the fear of it change your core message or your confident delivery. This is a crucial public speaking tip that extends to all forms of leadership dialogue. People will test you. That's a guarantee in any leadership role. They'll question your tone. Were you being a bit aggressive there? They'll challenge your decisions. Are you sure that's the right approach? They'll sometimes try to twist your message to fit their own narrative. And in those moments you have a critical choice. Stay planted in your clarity and conviction, or get dragged into their doubt, their agenda, or their emotional state. If you find yourself getting shaken, flustered, or defensive every time someone questions you, you won't last long in a leadership capacity. You'll end up becoming a chameleon, constantly changing your colors to match the mood of the room. But that's not leadership. That's insecurity in disguise. That's not effective leadership communication. To hold your ground effectively, you must first know, with absolute certainty, what ground you're standing on. If you haven't done the hard work of thinking through your position, defining your values, understanding your rationale, and anticipating potential objections, then pressure will expose those gaps mercilessly. Clarity gives you stability. Conviction gives you an anchor. If you've done the internal work to define your message, your direction, and the principles behind them, then when the pressure comes, you don't panic, you don't scramble, you don't suddenly change your language to appease the loudest voice or the most persistent critic. You stay anchored in what you've built inside. This is fundamental to improving leadership communication. You can't borrow strength in those high-pressure moments. You can't copy someone else's confidence. It has to be authentically yours, built brick by brick through repetition, through experience, through having spoken up and held firm when it was hard in the past. That kind of resilience, that communication fortitude, doesn't show up automatically. You train it, you develop it. Every time you stay calm when someone pushes back with emotion, you reinforce that inner strength. Every time you stand firm in what you believe, articulating your reasoning clearly and respectfully, but without yielding your core position unnecessarily, you grow stronger, not louder, stronger. That's the key. Leaders don't typically yell or become aggressive to prove they're solid. They speak with confidence and calm certainty. That controlled, even tone cuts through the noise and emotionality of a challenging situation far more effectively than any heated argument. People respect what doesn't flinch unnecessarily. If you change your tone, your message, or your apparent conviction every time the room shifts or someone raises an objection, people stop trusting you. They may smile at you, they may even agree with you to your face to avoid conflict, but inside, they know they can't rely on you when the going gets tough. True respect is earned when your message holds steady under pressure, when you say the same essential thing when it's uncomfortable that you said when it was easy, when your facial expression and body language don't betray panic or defensiveness. Just because someone's raising their voice or asking a tough question. This is a core tenet of leadership communication training. To lead well, you have to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. You have to be willing at times to be the one in the room who doesn't bend when everyone else is looking for an easy way out or a quick compromise that undermines a core principle. That doesn't mean you're stubborn or unwilling to listen. It means you're steady. It means you've thought things through. It means you don't need every single person in the room to agree with you before you speak with strength and maintain your position, especially if it's a position based on data, ethics, or strategic imperative. There will be moments, especially when you're developing this skill, where your voice might shake a little internally or you feel a surge of adrenaline. That's normal. You're human, but you still speak. You still hold your position. You still stay rooted in your truth. You don't run from the tension. You meet it calmly and directly. You show others, by your example, that disagreement doesn't scare you, that a challenge doesn't automatically throw you off your game, that someone else's doubt won't instantly make you question your own well-considered convictions. That's how leadership communication becomes visible and impactful. Not just when you say something inspiring in a receptive environment, but when you stay strong, articulate, and composed when someone is actively trying to push you off center. And the ones who try to shake you aren't always loud or overtly aggressive. Sometimes the challenge is subtle, a raised eyebrow of skepticism, a smirk of dismissal, a sharply pointed question designed to trip you up or make you defensive. You don't respond with reactive emotion. You don't overreact. You stay even. You hold your tone. You maintain respectful eye contact. You stay professional. But you don't move from your core message unless new, compelling information truly warrants a re-evaluation. You don't need to attack to protect your position. You just stay rooted in your clarity. Because when your voice and your message are built on truth, on solid reasoning, and on internal discipline, they don't need constant, frantic defending. They stand with quiet power on their own. This is how you develop executive presence. You'll feel it when someone's trying to shake your ground. The energy in the room shifts. The atmosphere can tighten. That's the precise moment most people start shrinking, vocally and physically. But that's your opportunity to rise, not with louder words, but with more grounded energy, with unwavering calm. People notice when someone speaks and doesn't flinch under scrutiny, when someone stands their ground without becoming defensive or aggressive, when someone keeps their message clear and their demeanor composed even when the pressure is high. That's the kind of communication people follow, the kind of leader people trust, not because their delivery is always perfectly polished, but because it's consistently solid. Real strength in communication isn't primarily found in what you say when people readily agree with you. It's found in how you speak, how you maintain your composure and clarity when they don't. When you stay grounded, you teach people something invaluable by your example. They learn that you're not easily shaken. They learn that your words are not based on fleeting trends, emotional whims, or reactive impulses. They learn that when you speak, there's genuine weight and thought behind it. And people gravitate towards that kind of presence, not hype, not fleeting popularity, but presence, something real, something steadfast that doesn't sway with every shift in the room's dynamics. This is what effective leadership communication looks like under duress. You don't need to explain yourself endlessly to everyone. Some people are primarily interested in arguing, not in understanding. Some want to provoke, not to engage in constructive discussion. That's not your primary responsibility to manage their intent. Your responsibility is to stay rooted in what matters, in your clear and ethical position. You don't chase approval in these moments. You don't beg for support. You deliver your message with strength, with clarity, with respect, and then you let the chips fall where they may. This is one of the harder leadership communication tips to implement, but one of the most crucial. There's a quiet, immense power in holding your ground effectively. You don't always have to say a lot. You don't have to justify every single nuance of your thought process. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to stay calm, restate your core position briefly if necessary, and not change a single word of your conviction unless genuinely persuaded by new facts or logic. That silence, that steadiness, often says more than 100 frantic explanations. That composure communicates more than reactive emotion ever could. And when you do this often, when you get into the consistent habit of staying strong through disagreement, of navigating challenges with grace and clarity, you start to become genuinely unshakable. Not arrogant, not dismissive, just rooted, grounded, present. That's what gives your leadership voice its distinctive edge, not volume, but conviction, not emotional reactivity, but clarity, not a need to control, but a commitment to consistency. The world is full of noise, of people trying to sound important, of individuals talking over each other, of knee-jerk reactions. What stands out, what commands respect, is someone who speaks and holds the line with integrity, someone who knows what they're about, someone who doesn't get rattled or defensive every time someone disagrees. That person becomes a voice of trust, a voice of clarity, a voice people return to, not because they always say what others want to hear, but because they always say what's real, what's considered, and what's needed. You won't always get applause for holding firm, especially on tough issues. That's not the goal. The goal is respect. The goal is impact. The goal is maintaining your integrity and the integrity of your message. So the next time someone tries to shake you, to push you off your well-reasoned ground, don't let it work. Don't adjust your voice to match their emotion. Don't speed up in nervousness or shrink in intimidation. Hold your tone. Hold your pace. Hold your clarity. Hold your ground. That's how trust is built. That's how presence is established. That's how real leaders are recognized, not by how they speak when it's easy, but by how they stay strong, composed, and clear when it's not. You hold your ground and people start to believe in you, not just your words, but in your capacity to lead through challenges. And once they believe in that, you don't just become someone who talks, you become someone who genuinely leads. This is a core outcome of leadership communication training. Chapter 8. Make your point without dragging or over-explaining. The art of concise power. This is a habit, a discipline that every truly strong communicator, every effective leader must relentlessly develop. In the realm of leadership communication skills, your value isn't measured by how many words you use or how long you can speak. It's measured by how well you say what needs to be said, how clearly and how concisely. You don't need long, rambling speeches to sound credible or authoritative. You don't need to keep repeating yourself ad nauseum to be clear. You don't need to add 5 unnecessary examples and a lengthy preamble to make sure people get it. When you speak with confidence and genuine clarity, often one well-crafted sentence is enough. When your thoughts are organized and your purpose is sharp, you don't ramble. And when your executive presence is strong, you don't rely on volume or length to make your mark. You rely on precision and impact. This is a cornerstone of effective communication for leaders. People today, more than ever, do not have unlimited attention spans. In fact, assume most are already partially distracted. Before you even open your mouth, their minds are juggling their own internal dialogues, their buzzing phones, their worries about the next meeting, and 1,000 other things pulling at their focus. If you drag your message out, if you keep circling the point without landing it, if you meander through irrelevant details, they start to check out. Mentally, if not physically, and when they check out, you lose your opportunity to influence, not because your core idea isn't good, but because it got lost, suffocated in a dense thicket of too many words. This is why mastering leadership communication involves mastering brevity. There's a vast difference between being thoughtful and being long-winded. Thoughtful communication is direct, it's clear, it's well-structured, and it respects the listener's intelligence and time. Long-winded communication is often messy, slow, uncertain, and disrespectful of the listener's attention. The more words you use beyond what's necessary, the more chances you have to weaken your message, introduce ambiguity, or simply bore your audience. Every extra, unnecessary sentence adds a layer of potential confusion. That's why real communicators, leaders, who talk like a leader, learn to trim the excess. They say what matters, clearly and directly. Then, crucially, they stop talking and let the message land. This is a vital public speaking tip that applies to all communication. Over-explaining is often a symptom of underlying doubt or insecurity. When people aren't fully confident in their message or in their ability to convey it effectively, they tend to keep adding to it. They try to protect their point with more details, more justifications, more context. They try to control how others will receive it by preemptively addressing every conceivable question or objection. But leadership communication doesn't work that way. You can't entirely control how people feel about your message. You can, however, control how you deliver it. And if you deliver it with confidence, clarity, and conciseness, you don't need a backup convoy of explanations. You say it. You trust its inherent strength. You let it speak for itself. Another common reason people over-explain is because they fear being misunderstood. They think that using more words will somehow make their message safer, more foolproof. But paradoxically, more words don't always equal more understanding. Often they make things worse. When you say too much, your main idea, the critical takeaway, gets buried under a pile of secondary comments, tangential thoughts, and redundant phrases. Your listener starts picking up on these side comments, losing the thread of your primary purpose. And then you've unintentionally created confusion where there could have been crystal clarity. Effective leadership communication is about delivering clarity, not trying to control every possible interpretation. Say the truth, state your point, and let it stand on its own. If you want to be listened to consistently, if you want to develop executive presence, you need to become someone who doesn't waste time, not your own time, and certainly not anyone else's. People should know that when you speak, they're going to get value. They're going to hear something that matters. They're going to walk away with a clear understanding or a clear call to action. That only happens when you discipline yourself to get to the point and stay on it. No unnecessary detours, no verbal fluff, no linguistic padding, just the core truth, the essential information, delivered with appropriate strength and precision. This is how you improve leadership communication. Getting to the point doesn't mean being cold, abrupt, or harsh. It means you care enough about people's time and attention to be efficient and respectful with your words. It means you've taken the crucial time beforehand to think through what absolutely needs to be said, and just as importantly, what doesn't. It means you're not speaking to fill empty space or to hear your own voice. You're speaking to create movement, to impart understanding, to drive a decision. This is a key leadership speaking technique. You also build profound respect by being consistently concise. When you make your point clearly and then stop talking, people lean in. They take notice. Because frankly, they're used to people going on and on. They're used to hearing vague ideas stretched out interminably for no good reason. When someone speaks with precision and finishes in a sharp, clean way, it feels different. It feels professional. It feels authoritative. And that difference earns attention and respect. There's inherent strength in brevity. The more certain you are of your message, the less you typically need to say to convey it effectively. If you're secure in your position, in your knowledge, in your conviction, you don't need to pile on words as a defensive measure. You deliver your point, and you stand behind it. The power comes from the simplicity of the message and the discipline. You exhibit by saying just enough and not a syllable too much. That takes work. It takes practice. It takes a willingness to edit yourself ruthlessly. But it's worth it, because the leaders who master this skill become the voices people turn to when clarity and decisive communication are needed most. This is a vital skill for communication skills for managers. You should never feel the need to convince everyone of your viewpoint in every single interaction. That's often where over-explaining originates, from an underlying need for universal acceptance or validation. But leadership is not primarily about trying to be accepted by all. It's about delivering what's necessary, what's true, and what's in the best interest of the goal or the team. Some will agree, some won't. That's the nature of diverse perspectives. You don't need everyone to approve of your message. You need the right people to understand it and act upon it. And that understanding is best achieved when you don't dilute your core message with excessive layers of explanation aimed at placating every potential doubter. When you speak, constantly ask yourself, what is the absolute core purpose of this sentence? Does this word, this phrase, truly move the message forward? If it doesn't, drop it. If it's only there to soften a necessary blow, rethink it. Perhaps a direct but respectful approach is better. If it's primarily trying to protect your ego or preempt criticism, replace it with a statement of clear conviction. Speak with intent, speak with clarity, speak with courage. That's what people genuinely want and need to hear, not a heavily sanitized, overly cautious version of your truth, but the real thing, spoken clearly, concisely, and briefly. This is how you speak to inspire and lead with efficiency. Every time you speak, you're training people how to listen to you. If you consistently ramble, they'll learn to tune out until they hear a keyword. If you're sharp and to the point, they'll learn to lean in from your first word. If you repeat yourself unnecessarily, they'll assume you either don't trust them to understand or you're not confident in your own message. But if you say something powerful once, make your point with precision, and then stop talking, they'll think about it. They'll respect you more for respecting their time. And they'll listen more closely the next time you speak. These are subtle but powerful leadership communication tools. Don't confuse clarity with a lack of depth or conciseness with simplicity of thought. You can be exceptionally clear and deeply profound in your communication. You can say something of immense importance in a very short sentence. In fact, the more important your point, the more pressure there is to make it clean and easily digestible, because complexity often hides or diminishes impact. Simplicity in delivery reveals and amplifies it. Think about the strongest, most memorable voices you've ever heard, the ones who truly moved you or changed your perspective. They didn't typically give 10 meandering examples. They didn't talk in confusing circles. They made a clear, powerful point with calm strength, and then they stopped. That pause after a strong, concise statement creates crucial space for the message to settle, to be absorbed. It lets the listener reflect. That's where true impact often happens, not while you're still talking, but in the resonant space you leave after you've spoken. You also need to understand your audience to calibrate your conciseness. If you're speaking to experts who already understand the background of a topic, don't overteach. Don't explain what they already know. It's condescending. Respect their intelligence. Speak to the next level of insight or action. Conversely, if you're speaking to those unfamiliar with your topic, then explain only what they absolutely need to know to understand your core message, not everything you know about the subject. Don't overload them. Guide them with essential clarity. Real, effective leadership communication is not about saying everything possible. It's about saying the right thing, at the right time, in the right way, and with the right amount of detail. That means constantly trimming, cutting, and sharpening your message. Before you speak, clarify your point in your own mind. Know exactly where you're going before you open your mouth. That internal clarity translates directly to external confidence and conciseness, and that's what makes your message land with power. There's no prize for speaking the longest. There's no award for using the most words. The real reward comes from being understood, from making a tangible impact, from helping someone think better, move faster, or decide sooner. And that happens most effectively when you deliver your point with focused strength and disciplined brevity, when you strip away the non-essential and trust your core message to do its job. If your message is true and clear, it doesn't need excessive decoration. It doesn't need a phalanx of backup explanations. It doesn't need endless support. It needs clarity. It needs your belief. And it needs you to stop talking once you've effectively said it. Speak to move. Speak to guide. Speak with strength. Say what matters, then stop. Let the silence and your concise message do the rest. That's how leaders talk. That's how voices gain genuine authority. That's how influence is built, not through long, meandering speeches, but through potent, precise words that mean something, spoken clearly and left to echo powerfully in the minds of others. This is a key principle in any leadership communication course or audiobook lower focused on impactful delivery. Chapter 9. Speak to be remembered, not just to be heard, crafting a lasting message. This is where leadership communication skills transcend mere information exchange and enter the realm of true influence and legacy. Talking is easy. Everyone does it. The world is saturated with voices, with noise, with an endless barrage of conversations, presentations, and pronouncements. But being remembered, having your words, your message, your essence stick with people long after the interaction is over, that's entirely different. That takes purpose. That takes intention. That takes profound discipline. This is central to mastering leadership communication. People hear thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of words every single day, but only a select few stay with them. The words that endure, the messages that take root, are the ones that meant something significant, the ones that were delivered with clarity and directness, the ones that carried an undeniable weight of conviction or insight. When you learn how to talk like a leader, you don't just aim to fill the air with sound, you aim to leave an indelible mark. You want your words to resonate, to stay with people, to influence their thoughts and actions long after you've left the room or ended the call. This is how you speak to inspire and lead in a way that has lasting impact. To be remembered, you first have to say something worth remembering. This seems obvious, but it's widely neglected. It means consciously cutting out the shallow talk, the reactive commentary, the pronouncements made just to be part of the conversation. Don't speak just to demonstrate what you know or to fill an awkward silence. Speak because you have something solid, something valuable to share, something that genuinely helps someone else, something that shifts their thinking in a constructive way, something that sparks a crucial decision or clarifies a path forward, something that leaves the listener demonstrably better, more informed, more motivated, or more focused than they were before they heard you. This is the essence of effective communication for leaders. This kind of memorable speech requires thoughtful preparation, even for seemingly informal interactions. You don't just wing it and hope for the best if you want lasting impact. You don't talk just because it's your turn or because you feel obligated to contribute. You speak when you have something that truly matters, and when you do, you deliver it with focused strength and clarity. This is a core leadership speaking technique. Your voice, in this context, is your signature. It's the carrier of your unique perspective and leadership brand. People won't always remember every single sentence you utter verbatim, but they will remember how you made them feel. They'll remember if your words made them stop and think deeply. They'll remember if you articulated a standard that resonated with them. They'll remember if your words helped them break out of a cycle of delay, confusion, or fear. That's what being remembered is fundamentally about. It's not about entertaining them, it's about elevating them. This is a key principle for improving leadership communication. Speaking to be remembered starts with being crystal clear about what you believe and what you stand for. People remember conviction. They remember certainty. If you're unsure, if your message is muddled or tentative, it will fade quickly from memory. But if you speak with confidence, from what you live, from what you know deep in your bones, from the experiences that have genuinely shaped you, your message sticks. You don't need to speak louder. You need to speak realer. That raw authenticity is what cuts through the overwhelming noise of daily life. This is vital for developing executive presence. You don't need perfectly polished, grammatically flawless sentences to make a lasting impact. You need truth, raw, tested, real truth. You need a message that is simple in its essence but strong in its implications. Don't complicate what should be clear. Don't try to sound overly impressive or academic unless that's genuinely the most effective way to connect with a specific, sophisticated audience. Generally, say it how people talk, say it how people think, say it in a way that they can easily grasp, internalize, and carry with them into their day, into their decisions. The easier your core message is to repeat, both to themselves and to others, the more powerful and memorable it becomes, because then people won't just hear it, they'll share it, and that's how your voice, your influence, begins to travel far beyond your immediate presence. This is a powerful leadership communication tool. Your words should aim to live in someone's mind long after the specific moment of communication has passed. They should echo in their decisions later that day, or even weeks later. They should challenge their pre-existing excuses. They should remind them of what truly matters, of the standards they aspire to. You don't achieve that kind of resonance by being passive or haphazard in your communication. You get it by choosing every word with purpose. You get it by respecting your message enough to deliver it right the first time, with clarity and conviction. You get it by being bold enough when necessary to say what others are afraid to say, to articulate the unspoken truth in the room. And the truth is, people are hungry for words that mean something. They are tired of fake inspiration, of corporate jargon that obfuscates rather than clarifies, of surface-level talk that avoids the real issues, of vague advice that offers no actionable path. They want clarity. They want power in the sense of empowerment. They want someone to articulate what they've been feeling or vaguely thinking but couldn't quite express. They want someone to speak to their future potential, not just to their current comfort. That's your role as a leader. You fill that gap. You give them the words, the frameworks, the insights they didn't know they needed until they heard them from you. This is how you speak like a CEO or any impactful leader. Being heard is about temporary presence in someone's auditory field. Being remembered is about achieving lasting presence in their mind and influencing their actions. To achieve the latter, you must be rigorously clear about why you are speaking. What is the one key takeaway you want them to walk away with? What specific shift in perspective or behavior are you trying to create? What decision are you subtly or overtly calling them toward? If you're not clear on that why yourself, you'll inevitably speak in circles. You'll end up using 10 meandering sentences when one sharply focused sentence would have done the job far more effectively. But if your core message, your intended impact, is laser sharp in your own mind, your delivery becomes almost automatic. You won't have to force impact. It will be intrinsically built into your words because they are aligned with a clear and compelling purpose. You don't need a formal stage or a large audience to speak with meaning and be remembered. Every conversation, every email, though this book focuses on spoken word, every meeting, every impromptu interaction where people are listening, that's your opportunity. That's where your leadership communication is practiced and honed, and it grows fastest. Its memorability quotient skyrockets when you stop trying to sound good and start committing to speaking the truth. Real truth. No performance, no fluff. Just solid, honest, purposeful communication. This is a core lesson in leadership communication training. Make your sentences clean and direct. Make your core message simple to grasp and powerful in its implications. Make your presence, your delivery, strong and congruent. That's how you build a voice that truly matters. That's how people start repeating your words, your phrases, your insights to others. Not because you asked them to, but because your message stuck, because it hit a nerve, because it resonated, because it was real. Don't be the kind of person whose input people forget 5 minutes after the meeting ends. Don't be the one who just fills time with empty, forgettable talk. Aspire to be the one who can shift the energy and focus of a room with one clear, insightful sentence. Be the one who changes the atmosphere, not with reactive emotion, but with quiet, confident authority. Be the one whose core message, whose key piece of advice, stays in someone's head when they wake up the next morning, influencing how they approach their day. That's what effective leadership communication does. It doesn't fade into the background, it lives on. And it's not primarily about fancy language or complex vocabulary. It's about strong, clear delivery. It's about knowing your words have weight and treating them that way. Don't waste your words on trivialities when important things need to be said. Don't repeat yourself endlessly unless it's a strategic repetition for emphasis. Don't speak in confusing circles. Don't go off on irrelevant tangents. Stay on message. Make it land. Make it matter. Even in casual conversation, talk like a leader. Speak like someone who respects their own voice. Speak like someone who understands that their message, even a small piece of advice or encouragement, could be the very thing that lifts another person out of a low place or sparks a new idea. Speak like someone who has carefully built their beliefs and consistently lives by them. That deep congruence is what people remember. That authenticity is what people trust. Don't try to impress. Strive to impact. Impressing is fleeting. Its effects are superficial and short-lived. Impact is lasting. It changes things. If you speak from your genuine truth, from your lived experience, from your hard-earned wisdom, people will feel it. They'll pause, they'll think, and they will remember. Every time you speak, you are planting seeds. Some seeds of thought or inspiration grow fast, others germinate slowly over time. But they do grow if the message was real, if it was delivered effectively, if it found fertile ground in the listener's mind. So stop trying to say more. Start focusing on saying what truly matters. Say it clean, say it strong, and then often say no more. Let it echo, let it settle, let it live in their minds. That's how you speak to be remembered. That's how your voice becomes something people hold on to, a beacon of clarity or a catalyst for action. That's how you truly lead, not with an avalanche of noise, but with carefully chosen, powerfully delivered words that last. This is a goal for anyone engaging in a leadership communication course or listening to a leadership communication audiobook. Chapter 10. Train your voice daily until it leads naturally, the discipline of development. This is the capstone, the integrating principle for everything we've discussed about how to talk like a leader. It's the discipline that most people overlook, yet it's the one that ultimately determines whether your leadership communication skills become truly ingrained and effective. Many want to sound strong and confident when it matters most, but they haven't put in the consistent practice in the quiet, everyday moments. They desire to lead with vocal authority, but they haven't cultivated the daily habit of speaking with intention, clarity, and control. If you want your voice to genuinely guide others, to influence decisions, to create tangible impact, you must train it like any other critical skill, not sporadically, not when it's convenient, but every single day. Because true leadership, especially in communication, doesn't just show up out of nowhere when the spotlight hits. It's meticulously built through relentless repetition, through conscious effort, through a commitment to continuous improvement. You don't become a powerful communicator by accident. You become one on purpose. This is the essence of leadership communication training. Your voice is an instrument, a tool of leadership. The more you consciously sharpen it, the more precise and effective it becomes. The more you use it with deliberate awareness, the more it adapts to reflect your intention and your strength. But if you speak without discipline, if you let your voice be solely a product of habit or fleeting emotion, it loses structure. It becomes reactive. It gets shaped by nervousness, by frustration, by insecurity, instead of by clarity, purpose, and control. This is why the real work, the transformative work, happens in the daily grind, in the regular conversations, the team meetings, the feedback sessions, the moments when no one is formally evaluating you, but your voice is still shaping perceptions. When you're explaining your thoughts, speaking up to correct a misunderstanding, guiding a colleague, or simply holding your tone steady under minor pressure, that's the training ground. That's where the authentic strength of a leadership voice is built, incrementally but powerfully. This is how you improve leadership communication from the ground up. Consider this. If your voice only sounds firm and confident when you're completely calm and unchallenged, but it falls apart, becoming hesitant or shrill the moment things get uncomfortable or you face disagreement, then you haven't trained it enough. If your message is only clear when there's no pressure, but it devolves into rambling or defensive over-explanation when you're questioned or put on the spot, then your communication skills haven't been sufficiently tested and fortified through practice. Effective leadership communication means you've developed your voice, your delivery, your composure to a point where it holds up consistently in any room, under any reasonable pressure, around any type of personality. That kind of resilience, that executive presence, doesn't come from reading a book or attending a single workshop. It comes from showing up daily and doing the deliberate work to improve how you speak, how you deliver your message, and how you connect with others vocally. Start by being fiercely intentional every single time you talk. This is a practical leadership communication exercise you can do constantly. Become hyper-aware of how you sound. Are you speaking too fast, rushing your words? Are you littering your speech with distracting filler words? Like? Is your tone congruent with your message? Are your sentences clean, concise, and direct? The goal isn't instant perfection. That's an illusion. The goal is heightened awareness, because awareness is the absolute prerequisite for growth, and the more you notice, the more you can consciously adjust and improve. Speak like your words matter, even in the most casual settings. Speak like you're leading, even when it's a conversation with just one person. Speak like someone who unequivocally owns their voice, not like someone who's timidly hoping their message lands well. You don't need a formal stage or a large audience to train your voice for leadership. You need discipline. You need consistency. Practice during your phone calls. Is your voice engaging, clear, and professional? Practice when giving constructive feedback. Is your tone firm but fair, direct but respectful? Practice when making requests. Are you clear, concise, and confident? In every interaction, make a conscious effort to say what you mean, to speak with purpose, to cut the excess, and to stay fully present in your tone and delivery. That's the daily grind, the deliberate practice that most people avoid. They wait for the big moment, the high-stakes opportunity, mistakenly thinking that somehow they'll magically rise to the occasion. But if you haven't trained, if you haven't built the underlying muscle memory of strong communication, pressure won't bring out your best. It will brutally expose your gaps. And you can't fix those foundational gaps in the heat of the moment. You fix them ahead of time, consistently, when nobody's watching, when you're building strength and skill behind the scenes. This is the core of mastering leadership communication. Your voice is a direct reflection of your thinking. If your thinking is muddled, your words will be too. That's why training your voice also, inextricably, means training your mind. Get used to thinking in simple, strong, declarative statements. Train your thoughts to focus, to eliminate the internal clutter and noise. Discipline your internal language, the way you talk to yourself, so that your external communication naturally becomes sharper, clearer, and more confident. That way, when it's time to speak, you're not trying to manufacture clarity on the spot. It's already there, an inherent part of your thought process. You're simply letting it out, articulating what's already well-formed within. This is a powerful leadership speaking technique. You also have to get profoundly comfortable with silence. Part of training your voice for leadership is learning when not to speak. The pauses matter. The stillness between your words carries immense presence and power. Most people are terrified of silence in a conversation. They rush to fill any perceived gap with more words, often diminishing the impact of what they just said. But if you've trained your voice, if you've built your confidence in public speaking and private speaking, you understand that silence is not a void. It's a strategic part of your strength. It gives your words time to breathe, to resonate. It lets your message settle deeply into the listener's mind. It shows that you are in complete control, not just of what you say, but of the rhythm and pacing of the entire communication. You can train your tone just like you train your physical posture. Aim to speak with a grounded, resonant tone, not too high-pitched and nervous, not too soft and unassertive, just steady and firm. You're not trying to sound like someone else. You're finding and strengthening your authentic leadership voice, the one that holds natural authority without needing to raise its volume, the one that speaks directly and with conviction without a hint of hesitation. You develop that through consistent practice, through repetition, through saying things out loud with intention until your voice learns what strength, clarity, and control feel and sound like. This is a practical application from many public speaking tips. It's not just what you say, it's profoundly how you say it. Your delivery matters immensely. If your voice shakes, people notice, and they infer nervousness or a lack of conviction. If your words drag or your delivery is monotonous, people disengage. If your tone sounds unsure or apologetic, they question your message. But if your voice is trained, if your delivery is polished through practice, it becomes almost effortless, natural. People don't even consciously notice you're leading with your voice. They just find themselves following, listening intently, because you've built a rhythm, a tone, a presence that guides without demanding, that persuades without pushing. This is effective leadership communication in action. Training your voice daily also builds authentic confidence, not a fake alpha bravado, but a deep, earned confidence. The kind that comes from knowing, through repetition and feedback, what you sound like, how to stay calm and clear under pressure, how to make your point concisely without getting lost or flustered. That self-trust, that practiced competence, shows up in your speech and people feel it. They may not be able to articulate exactly why they listen to you more intently than others, or why they find your communication more compelling. They just know they do, because your voice tells them, subtly but powerfully, that they can. There will be days you don't feel strong, days when you're tired, days when you're internally unsure or facing your own doubts. That's when your consistent training carries you. That's when the habits of strong, clear, controlled communication, built through daily discipline, kick in. You don't have to fake strength. You access the strength you've already practiced and ingrained. You've spoken with clarity when you didn't. Feel like it before. You've held your tone steady when it would have been easier to let emotion take over. That's the incredible power of consistent training. It builds reliability, so your leadership communication doesn't depend on your fleeting mood. It depends on your steadfast preparation. This is how you speak like a CEO, even on tough days. You can't build a strong leadership voice by consistently avoiding hard conversations or shying away from opportunities to speak up. You build it by walking into those situations, not with arrogance or aggression, but with intention, with preparation, with composure. You don't raise your voice to get attention. You raise your standard of communication, and when you speak, that elevated standard comes through. People hear the difference. They hear the work behind your controlled tone. They hear the thought behind your concise message. They hear the truth and conviction behind your delivery. That's what makes your voice lead. When you commit to training your voice every day, you eventually stop trying to lead with your voice. You just lead. It becomes an integral, natural part of who you are as a communicator. You don't have to consciously think about your tone in every sentence. You live in a state of vocal control and intentionality. You don't have to meticulously plan the structure of every minor utterance. Clarity flows more naturally. You don't second-guess your words as they're coming out. You speak from a place of alignment and practiced skill. That's the ultimate goal. Not to impress, not to perform, but to be so practiced, so grounded, so consistent that your leadership communication shows up effectively and authentically without conscious strain. And never forget, your voice is inextricably linked to your character. The way you speak reflects what you've built internally. If your words are consistently honest, your tone will tend to be steady. If your message is rooted in truth, your delivery will carry inherent strength. If your purpose is real and genes, with your values, your vocal presence will follow. But all of it, the clarity, the control, the confidence, the impact, must be trained. No shortcuts, no pretending. Just daily work, daily progress, daily refinement, one sentence at a time, one conversation at a time, one deliberate adjustment at a time. That's how your voice grows in power and influence. That's how your executive presence deepens. That's how your leadership communication becomes undeniably effective, not because you said the most, but because you trained the most, because you respected your voice and the responsibility that comes with leadership enough to build it diligently and patiently every single day, until one day you speak and people follow, not because they were told to, but because they wanted to. Because your voice didn't push, it pulled. Because it didn't perform, it guided. Because it didn't shake, it led. And that's when your voice becomes more than just words. It becomes influence. It becomes power. It becomes leadership, natural, strong, and consistently effective. This journey of daily vocal training is the ultimate leadership communication tool, and it's available to anyone willing to put in the work. This is the commitment that distinguishes a leadership communication audiobook from just a collection of tips. It's about instilling a practice. Conclusion: your voice, your leadership, your legacy. The time to lead is now. We've journeyed through the core principles of how to talk like a leader, from owning every word with unwavering confidence to speaking with crystal clarity, from controlling your vocal power to moving people to tangible action, and from using strong, respectful language to holding your ground under pressure. We've explored the art of concise power, the craft of being remembered, and critically, the non-negotiable discipline of daily vocal training. The truth is, the ability to speak like a leader isn't an innate gift reserved for a chosen few. It's a set of leadership communication skills that can be learned, honed, and mastered by anyone willing to commit to the process. It's about conscious choices, consistent practice, and a relentless desire to improve leadership communication because you understand its profound impact. Your voice is your most immediate and pervasive leadership tool. It's how you build trust, inspire action, navigate conflict, and develop executive presence. It's how you speak to inspire and lead, turning vision into reality. One conversation, one presentation, one crucial interaction at a time. The leadership. Speaking techniques we've covered are not just theories. They are actionable strategies that, when applied diligently, will transform how you communicate and, consequently, how you lead. But knowing these principles is only the first step. The real transformation, the journey to mastering leadership. Communication happens in the application. It happens when you take these public speaking tips and communication skills for managers and leaders, and you weave them into the fabric of your daily interactions. It happens when you engage in the leadership communication exercises, both mental and practical, until they become second nature. This leadership communication audiobook has aimed to be more than just information. It's intended as a catalyst for your growth, a foundational part of your ongoing leadership communication training. The world needs leaders who can communicate with clarity, conviction, and compassion. It needs voices that don't just add to the noise, but cut through it with purpose and integrity. It needs leaders who can speak like a CEO, not in title, but in impact. The journey doesn't end here. In fact, it's just beginning. The power to transform your leadership, to amplify your influence, and to build a legacy of impact is literally within your own voice, waiting to be fully unleashed. Your call to action. Ignite your leadership voice. If the insights and techniques in this audiobook have resonated with you, if you're ready to take your leadership communication skills to the next level and truly learn how to talk like a leader, then I invite you to continue this journey with us. Subscribe to Audiobook LOA. Don't miss out on future audiobooks, in-depth explorations of leadership principles, and advanced leadership communication tools. Hit that subscribe button now to ensure you're always equipped with the latest strategies for effective leadership. We are your ongoing resource for leadership communication training. Like this audiobook, if you found value in these chapters, if you gained actionable insights, please give this audiobook a like. It helps others discover this content and embark on their own journey to more powerful communication. Share with your network. Do you know colleagues, team members, or aspiring leaders who could benefit from mastering leadership communication? Share this audiobook with them. Empower others to find their leadership voice. The more effective communicators we have, the better our teams, organizations, and communities will be. Comment below. What was your biggest takeaway? Which leadership speaking technique are you going to implement first? Do you have specific leadership communication examples or challenges you'd like to discuss? Your comments create a community of learners, and we value your insights and questions. Let's learn and grow together. Remember, the way you communicate has the power to shape perceptions, influence outcomes, and define your career. Start today, train daily, speak with purpose, lead with your voice. Thank you for listening to How to Talk Like a Leader. Meet Audiobook. Now, go out there and let your voice be the force for positive change and impactful leadership it was always meant to be. The book written by Peter A. Saul, published by Audiobooks LOA.